The village lay nestled in a remote valley, surrounded by dense forests and rolling hills. Its residents lived simple, quiet lives, but there was an ancient tale that haunted their homes, a tale of a creature that emerged with the fall of night, a terrifying force that struck fear into every heart. They called it the nightmare horse. Every night, when the sun dipped below the horizon, villagers locked their doors and shuttered their windows, avoiding the streets until the first light of morning. For years, no one had seen the horse, but the stories lived on, whispered with trepidation. The nightmare horse, it was said, roamed the village each night, bringing death with it, passing through homes like a shadow, claiming the souls of those unlucky enough to be in its path. Jacob Calloway, new to the village, didn't believe in such things. He had moved there with his wife, Sarah, hoping for peace after years of turmoil. The villagers' warnings were dismissed as superstition, nothing more than tales meant to scare children. Life in the village was peaceful, the air crisp, and the surroundings serene. But one evening, as the sun dipped low, Sarah's unease grew. Sitting at the dinner table, Sarah's gaze kept drifting to the window, her face pale. She whispered of hearing something, an ominous presence outside, something moving in the dark. Jacob, skeptical, dismissed her fears, thinking it was just the wind or her imagination. But as darkness thickened around them, Sarah's insistence led him to step outside. The village square was eerily quiet, the wind stirring the branches of the trees. The only sound was the occasional rustle of leaves. But something was wrong. The air felt heavier, colder. A strange tension gripped Jacob as he walked toward the village center, his lantern flickering in the growing darkness. Then, he heard it, low, rhythmic pounding. Hooves striking the stone. At first distant, but growing closer with each beat. His heart pounded as the sound echoed through the night. The ground beneath him seemed to tremble, and his steps faltered. From the darkened street, a massive black horse appeared. Its eyes glowed red, like embers from a fire, and steam rose from its nostrils. The air around it seemed to warp, as if the very atmosphere bent to its presence. Its hooves struck the cobblestones with terrifying force, each step reverberating through the ground. Jacob's breath caught in his chest. He froze, unable to look away. The horse's body was impossibly large, its mane a wild, flowing tangle of darkness. But it wasn't the horse that sent a chill down Jacob's spine, it was the rider. A cloaked figure, sitting atop the horse with unnerving stillness, shrouded in tattered black robes. The rider's face was hidden in shadow, but its eyes glowed, cold and white, radiating an unearthly hunger. The nightmare horse glided silently past Jacob, its hooves beating against the cobblestone streets like an ominous drum. Jacob stood frozen, a knot of fear tightening in his chest. The creature moved toward the first house, and as it approached, something unimaginable occurred. The horse did not stop. It passed through the walls of the house as if they were nothing more than mist. The door and windows remained undisturbed, yet the horse was inside, its hooves striking the wooden floors. Jacob could only watch in horror as the villagers inside the house did not scream or flee. Their eyes were empty, glazed over, as though their souls had already been claimed. The horse continued its path, moving effortlessly through each home in the village. Each time, the same scene, the house would go silent, and the villagers inside would stare out, oblivious to the horrors that had passed through their walls. Jacob's legs gave way. He collapsed to his knees, the weight of dread pressing down on him. He looked up, and for a moment, the rider's glowing eyes met his. The darkness within them seemed to consume him. His heartbeat echoed in his ears as the rider urged the horse forward, and in an instant, both the horse and rider faded into the night, as if they had never been there at all. The next morning, Jacob woke in a cold sweat, his heart racing. The village was eerily quiet. He rushed to check on Sarah, but her bed was empty. Panic surged through him as he searched the village, calling her name, but there was no answer. The streets were silent, the homes abandoned. Not a trace of the villagers remained. It was as if they had vanished, swallowed by the night, leaving behind only an empty, desolate village. Later that evening, as the sun set and the village remained untouched, Jacob heard it again, the pounding of hooves. Closer now. Growing louder. Jacob's heart stopped. The nightmare horse had returned. He tried to run, but the darkness had already crept into his home, seeping under the door like a living thing. He could feel it in the air, the suffocating presence that filled every corner of the room. The sound of hooves grew louder, and then, through the window, he saw them, two glowing eyes, piercing the night. The horse and rider had come for him. No matter how far he ran, no matter how many walls he put between himself and the nightmare, it would always find him. The shadows closed in, the hooves grew louder, and Jacob knew, with a sickening certainty, that the nightmare horse would never let him escape. It was only a matter of time before the creature would pass through his walls, claim his soul, and drag him into the endless night. And no one would ever remember his name.